I'm calling this meeting to order. Please join me in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, someone stole my gavel, so I improvised with this. So. But that's all right. This worked. I'm good. We got it under control. All right. So item 3 on our agenda is the reminder that our mission is to encourage everyone to see and be his or her personal best through successful learning experiences. Become your best. Item number 4, adoption of the agenda and consent agenda is an order of business with the identification of items to be taken off the consent agenda for discussion or separate action. I need a motion, a second.
I move we adopt the agenda and consent agenda as the order of business. I'll second.
Thank you. That's first and second. All in favor, say yes. Yes. Opposed? Moving on, item 5, consider approval of the consent agenda as adopted. A, to consider approval of minutes of April 19th, 2022, the Board of Education meeting. B, to consider the approval of our financial report for the period of July 1, 2021 through April 30th, 2022. And C, to consider the approval of bills for the period of April 1, 2022 through April 30th, 2022 in the amount of $2,636,152.68.
So moved.
Second?
First and second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Agenda adopted. Item number 6 were board reorganization. This we do every single year. After the election, we now need to move into the election of our officers for the board. So, with that, we need, how do we do this in the past?
Do a nomination, you need a nomination for the office, and then
All right, so starting with
any
the,
discussion can follow.
all right, so starting with the offices of president, vice president, treasurer, is that it? Or do we have a secretary?
Clerk.
Clerk, secretary, clerk. All right. We'll start with president. Are there any nominations for president of the board?
I nominate Bob Travis for president.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for president? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? So there's a first and second for me as president. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Vice president, currently held by Dan Steinert. I was going to say Mella. I nominate Dan Steinert for vice president.
Second.
We have a first and second. Are there any other nominations for vice president? Any other? All right, first and second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Congratulations, Dan. Now for treasurer, who is our treasurer? Tony. Tony nominates himself as treasurer. We need a nomination for Tony,
I nominate Tony for the position of treasurer.
and I'll second that. Are there any other nominations for treasurer? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? All right, we have a first and second. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Congratulations, Tony. And finally, clerk. Sally? I nominate Sally to be clerk.
Second.
Are there any other nominations? Any other nominations? Any other nominations? We have a first and a second. All in favor for Sally as clerk, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Congratulations, Sally. All right, that's the election of our board for another year. Now we move on to the appointment of board liaisons. The current liaisons, Community Ed is Sally Isley, Foundation is myself, Dan Steinert is Family Resource Center. Is anyone interested in a different liaison position, or anyone currently serving like to move away from that position? Do we have an audio problem?
Oh, I think somebody's muted.
We good?
We're good.
Okay. Sally, are you good with Community Ed?
We really haven't met since COVID.
So you're good for another year?
Yeah.
All right.
For another year.
You're in. Any others? Dan, are you good with Family Resource?
Unless anybody else wants to see what's going on there.
Okay, no one's jumping out of their seat, so
All right.
thanks, Dan. Dan, you do a really good job with that, so stick with it, man.
Will do.
Foundation, I'm happy to continue serving, but if someone else is interested in going on to the foundation, that's, I'm more than willing to pass on that.
You do a nice job.
Thanks, Tony. It's only because you're treasurer that you say that. All right, I will continue to serve there. That moves us to subcommittee appointments.
So I think the only subcommittee is you and I on the facility.
Facilities, right.
And there's a salary and personnel committee.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Oh, salary and personnel. Thank you, Sally, because I was trying to think of the other one. So facilities, would someone else like to sit on that? I'm on it, Sally's on it. It doesn't meet all that often,
No, like once every 3 months or so.
About
Right.
quarterly.
quarterly, but it is interesting. You get to look at what's going on with the facilities, some long-range planning.
I'll be
Some,
at the
Dan, you're a great guy. Thanks, Dan. So Dan has now replaced Bob Travis on facilities. Sally's still on facilities. Sally, are you
Yeah, I'm good. with
good?
it. Staying on.
All right. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate that. And then finally, salary and personnel.
Yeah, who's on that?
I'm on that one.
What?
Policy.
Oh, policy is the other one.
Yeah, policies. I thought of that too, yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Next time I'll list these out ahead of time. So, policy and personnel is it Janelle, are you on that?
No, there's salary and personnel, and then there's policy.
Yes, policy I know, but personnel, I'm sorry, did I combine the two?
Yeah, you did.
Okay, salary and personnel is the one. That's, right now is,
I'm on that one.
This time you came and Dan came because Richard was on it, so
Oh,
we needed to add another person.
that's right.
And I was on it and I was gone,
Correct.
Okay,
so.
so are you still okay being on it?
Yeah,
Okay. And, Tony, would you like to be on it?
How often do they meet?
once a year.
Once,
Once,
basically a year.
Once a year? Okay.
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay,
And that's usually before, we did it this year right before the board meeting.
sure, I can do that.
Okay, great.
So
And
is
then-
it just Kathy, Tony, or are you still on it, Bob?
Usually we have just two on it.
Oh, just two? Okay.
Yeah,
That's okay.
so,
Fine.
and then finally is policy. And Janelle,
I'd be interested.
yeah, it'd be great.
Dan smiles.
And then,
Yes.
Aaron, would you like to be on that?
Kathy's on it currently. but
Oh, Kathy's on
we're
it?
one, but-
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was gonna say,
We can have
just
more
one
than,
person or two?
we can have actually up to.
We can have two.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually can have three, can't we? Or
Yeah, we typically have two.
typically we have two. So
Okay.
I was
Yeah,
just
I'm good
trying to
with that.
spread the wealth and let Aaron be on something.
I'm good.
Okay.
You're good?
Okay,
the
so
good
it's
ones.
Janelle
I
and
don't want to
just
screw
Kathy
that
then,
up.
okay.
And that way, if somebody can't make it, the other person can make it and that kind of thing.
Okay, all right, that's good.
Policies wouldn't be good for me anyways, I usually break those, so.
True. All right. So I believe that sets our subcommittees. Is that right, Katrina? Is there anyone? Did I miss anything? We good? All right, so we're out of item 6 then. That moves us on to item number 7, Academic Pillar of Excellence. And Dan, I'll let you take away the introductions and,
Yes,
Go from there.
tonight we have the AFS student presentation, and so the Whedons are here to bring them forward and talk about how the kids did. You get introduced to the students from this past year and learn a little bit about their experience, and so come on down. This is always a nice presentation where you get a chance
Where
to
would you like them?
talk with them. Right out in front is great, right out here in the middle.
Okay.
That way the microphones can pick them up.
yeah, I mean,
I'll go on the side. Come on out, come on out. I know you guys are not shy. So I'm Ann Whedon. I am one of the coordinators for the Plymouth High School AFS chapter. Pat Gaffney's the other one, and he's had surgery, so he's kind of laying low. This year, Plymouth High School has graciously opened their doors to 10 students. We have 6 right here. 3 of them did go home. 2 of them had semester and then 1 right after that. And so we had 10 students from 10 different countries, which I think is really impressive, and 10 different languages too, so that was good.
wow.
Yeah, in addition to having just AFS students, we also had what's called YES students. They are a specialty group of students that come here on scholarship, full scholarship, and plus they get a stipend. So they are selected from their country. I will introduce the YES students first. I'll let them introduce themselves first, okay? I want you to say your name and then your country, okay? I'll start with you.
Okay,
Anna.
so I'm Anna Moseva and I'm from Bulgaria.
And how many students came from Bulgaria this year?
12, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
so a real small percentage, yeah. And then Raymark?
Hello everyone, my name is Remark Valancian. I'm from the Philippines, and as Mrs. Ann said, I'm a YES student. So the number of YES students from the Philippines this year is 28.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Himan Duplessis. I'm a South African YES student. We usually send about 15 students from South Africa on the YES program, but this year we only had 11.
Yeah, the numbers were down this year. So. And then we have 3 other students. You start, Eleanor?
Hi, so I'm Eleanor Berthelin and I'm from France. I'm Maria Lillerovre. I'm from Norway.
And my name is Toby and I'm from Sweden.
Would, starting with Toby, would you like to just tell a couple things that you were, just a couple of the many things that you were involved in this year?
I've been very involved in theater, especially. I did the one act during fall and the musical. And I've also been playing softball. The season just ended, but that was very fun. And I played tennis as well during fall. That was very fun.
Anna?
I'm in soccer right now, and I played tennis in fall. And I'm in REACT, the Mid-Profit Cables volunteering club. And yeah.
Very good.
Yeah, I'm in WEAC too, and then I played volleyball, and now I play soccer. I'm also in WEAC, and I played tennis, and right now I'm in track.
What is it called?
I was in the chess before, the first season. Also, I'm part of REACT.
Yeah, I was part of a couple of things. I was part of the fall play, and also I played JV soccer, which was really fun. I'd highly advise that. Those freshmen ran circles around me, but I enjoyed myself. And yeah, I went to state for swimming, and I was part of the musical as well. And I'm managing girls soccer now, or I'm trying to. But I don't think I'm the best at it. Oh yeah. I went to state for solo and ensemble and got a exemplary nomination, so that's pretty good. apparently.
Apparently. So, we're very thankful that you allow this many students at the high school because most schools do not allow that many. Some of the local schools only allow 1 or 2, so we're very thankful to have 10 here. Next year, we'll have a whole different group, so do you have any questions?
Thank you for coming. I love this meeting when the AFS students come in. Tell us where you're from, and love to have a conversation with each one of you to learn more about your country. But
All right.
We do have, 3 times a year, we do have presentations at Generations, and they have been attended by over 100 people, so.
That's great.
Yeah, it's very great.
Also baked goods from each country. that-
Oh, yeah, that's
Oh,
awesome.
wow.
I guess to eat, that's the thought. So,
Oh, I eat that one here.
yeah, yeah.
Tony?
So with that, favorite American foods that you can't get back at home?
We'll start with Human. Favorite foods that you can't get at home?
100% the butter burgers. No, that's that.
My favorite American food, probably the one that we had for the Thanksgiving, which is the stuffing. It's really good.
No, mine is cheese curds. I go waffles and Culver's lemonade.
Did you say Eggo waffles?
Yeah.
Thanks for
Ben & Jerry's ice cream and cheese curds.
Nice.
Yeah.
It isn't really food, but at the fair during fall, the deep fried Oreos. Absolutely wonderful.
It isn't really food.
Yeah. I think it's all those things and some of the candies. I am obsessed with Reese's peanut butter cups.
Yeah.
Oh, they're so good.
is this your first time to America?
For me, it's my second time in America. I have some relatives, but they live in Texas and New York, so it's not really that close to here. But yeah.
It's my 7th or 8th time, I think. Yeah,
Are you an American citizen?
not anymore.
Oh, okay, okay. 'Cause okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's my second.
No, it was my first time.
It's my first time.
Yeah, it is my first time too.
Well, yeah, any other questions? So I'm just curious, when you heard Plymouth, Wisconsin, right, this is gonna be, you gotta think a little bit. When you heard Plymouth, Wisconsin, what was your fear or made you wonder about us? And then what was the pleasant surprise that you got coming to Plymouth?
Should I start? I'll let Himon start.
I don't know, fear of not knowing where you're going because you've never heard of this place before. So I went straight on Google. Actually, my mother went straight on Google and said, oh, look at this, and this is where your family lives, and so on and so forth. And a pleasant surprise would definitely be the community and just the warmth I've been received with from my host family and from the rest of the community.
Mine is, I never heard about this this place. I never. So I thought this was gonna be like a big city as New York City because that's the place that I really know about the U.S. The thing that surprised me about is the community. They are kind of more on participation, and yeah.
Thank you.
Have you met any other people from the Philippines since you've been here?
Even in this,
Any time this past year, have you met anyone from the Philippines?
no.
Oh, my nephew's wife is from the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
I wasn't really scared. I would just looked what was the biggest city next to Plymouth. And it was Milwaukee, and I didn't know Milwaukee, so. Yeah. Oh, sure. I was a little bit nervous because there were no public transport. So I was like,
Yeah.
how am I going to get around? But it's fine because I have a sister here. Yeah.
Like a little Uber. I wouldn't say it was like a fear, but like I've always lived in like capitals, and I was like, oh my god, I will be so small, and I was like scared that it's gonna be like a little bit boring. But it actually was surprised how many things you have to do here, like sports and how involved everyone is, and I really love that. But fun fact, the first thing that came up when I googled Plymouth, Wisconsin was the cow that's like downtown. That was like the first thing that came up. But yeah.
So did you get your picture taken with Antoine?
I have not actually. I haven't done it yet. I mean, I have a picture of the cow, but I don't
You
have
gotta
like,
get it with
I
you.
remember
Yeah.
that was one of the first things that we said that we were gonna do, take a picture by the cow, but that never happened.
yeah.
Well, you can't
Only
leave.
have a short time to do
We
it.
better get on that then.
It's walkable distance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I come from a family where everybody's been exchange students. So I was prepared to going to a smaller town. I come from Stockholm, which is the capital, so it's pretty big. But that was what I was prepared for. What I wasn't prepared for was like when I was checking it out on Google Maps, when I saw like, oh, this is the address where I'm gonna live. It was not built on the like photos yet. It was just a pile of dirt. And then I thought to myself, okay, yeah, we'll see how this goes. But it's been really nice, and fitting in with people around here. It's you guys are so nice, every single one of you.
And what about the connection between your dad and?
Oh, yes. So Mr. Krasaniak, the science teacher, he actually knows my Swedish dad. When my dad was exchange students in northern Wisconsin in the 80s, they were best friends and neighbors. And somehow Krasaniak came here, and I just happened to be placed in Plymouth. And
Oh, no kidding.
yeah, so one day I got a text from my Swedish dad saying, is there a Paul Krasaniak at your school? And I said, I think so. Yeah,
That's great.
Small world, small world.
yeah, definitely.
Small world.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All of you, thank you.
All right, thank you. All right. Now we'll go on to 7B, consider approval of proposed revisions to adopt the 2021-2022 Riverview Middle School Student and Parent Handbook for the 2022-2023 school year. It's for Tom Dorgan. And we went through this before,
We
so
went through it
now
at the
it's
committee of the
really at the committee of the whole. So it's really up for us to adopt, or if we have any questions for Tom. Hearing no questions for Tom, Tom is off the hook.
All right.
So therefore, we need a motion to adopt, and
I make a motion, we adopt the revisions to the 21-22 Riverview Middle School Student and Parent Handbook.
Second.
first and second, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Thanks, Tom. Finally, board learning sessions. That's you.
Yes. So it was intended to happen at the committee of the whole to have a discussion about alternative programs at a middle school level. And so what we are doing here is kind of catching up on that request from one of the board members. I think Dan wanted to talk about that as well. So we've put together a little presentation and a little discussion that we can have related to it. And so we've got information to start with. We'll add a couple of stories in and talk about it. But at any point, if you want to jump in and ask questions, feel free and do that. And I think Dina will kick it off for us here.
Sure, so we'll just follow along in the little presentation.
presentation that we have here, but ultimately, I started with the DPI's definition, and the definition of an alternative program is something that is separate from what's already existing within. So it's different than the normal curriculum that we are mandated to teach and push out. So that goes to what would be the purpose of having an alternative program within the middle school. So when we look at our high school alternative school, the purpose is to help students that are credit deficient to graduate and help them to prepare to be career ready for society. So you would have to look at what would the purpose be for a middle school alternative program. And typically there are 3 different characteristics that falls into, which would be behavioral or social emotional needs, interests, or the functional level. So examples of those would be, behavior would be for your at-risk or disruptive youths that might be within the schools. Your interests, you'll see around the state, different schools that might be charter schools of sorts that have like they're art-based or they're chemical engineer-based or that high interest. So maybe a computer technology-based school. And then the functional level typically falls on special education or different learning needs that students might have. So that's how those characteristics, they fall into those different examples. So then looking at, there's programs, alternative programs, and alternative schools. So some different examples of alternatives programs would be having a self-contained classroom, which we already have at Riverview. We have more than one alternative self-contained classroom. And then another example would be having more styles of resource rooms where students would go in and get specialized instruction or supports throughout the day. And again, that's something that the high school has had in the past and Riverview has also. And then finally, it comes down to having that alternative school, which is having a school off-site like we do with our high school that provides a totally different programming. So that would be another alternative. So within the class or within the building, you can have different programs and also then off-site. So that's something that, you know, again, like if we're just sharing this information and the decisions or topics would have to be discussed on what route, if any, we'd want to take. And then I just provided some different research on successful programs. So typically, organizationally is a huge component. So, you know, student to teacher ratio, looking at those numbers, looking at really strong developed curriculum to meet the needs of that program. Having those strong instructors. A lot of times, some of the research pointed to the fact that it came down to just not having strong instructors to be able to provide curriculum for these students, which falls financially to that tune is that, you know, within a school budget, as you know, we talk about every month, you have to find those extra dollars and to provide that programming for students. And then really that interpersonal, dependent on the needs of the school. If you're, you know, if we're looking at students who are at risk or might be disruptive, that interpersonal comes hard into play, that if you don't have people who are understanding of those skills that are needed, it can definitely have a negative impact on the overall success. So that's just, I mean, really the basics. Looking into the research that Dan and I had done, the reality is there are not a lot of middle school alternative programming besides like your self-contained classrooms, mainly because financial comes into play, but also at that age level, there's so much development that is occurring. So to sort of peg them into a track is concerning, that you don't want students, because of development, that could be social emotional, that could be for a variety of reasons, or in learning, kids have gaps in learning, and that all of a sudden you see them spring forward, that you could put them sort of in that self-fulfilling prophecy and tracking them right into a program in high school, which is not something that we want to fall into.
Yeah, I'll say, like, just in terms of the types of alternative programs that are in middle schools, the majority, they're not the high school tend to be more functional, so getting yourself ready to graduate, getting yourself ready to be employable and career ready and that kind of thing. In middle schools, because it has to be selected by the student and parent, and we can't force a student into something like this. They would have to agree to join. They tend to be more theme-based. So as an example, when I was a principal back in Menasha in the Wayback Machine, we had a regular middle school of 900 kids, and then we had a charter alternative school in the basement of our windowless Maplewood Middle School that was called School on the Lake. And it was, it was an environmentally focused, it was really cool, but it was an environmentally focused, themed, multi-age. It was 6 through 8. They were all taught together in a multi-age way around the themes of environmental stewardship of the land. There's a huge prairie behind the building and stuff. So that was an example of an alternative program, but then parents chose that as an option in part because, you know, there might be a really strong interest among some students in that way, but then also, I mean, it was actually a 960 kid middle school, so that's a lot of middle school kids in one building, so there was sometimes a chance for them to be a little bit more a smaller group. But everything is absolutely correct. You needed really strong instructors. At the time there were. Those instructors ultimately left. Ultimately that is no longer a school because you lost those two people that had the ability to multi-age. That is really hard. And then also, you know, all the curriculum that they had developed was, you know, that theme-based curriculum that went across grade levels. So there aren't a lot of behavior-based alternative schools in the middle school, simply because most middle schools are, they have those things already like we do. You know, we've got self-contained, which means classrooms where students are with a small group of students and a teacher and maybe not mixed in the regular group of students on a regular basis. And so to create another school like that, segregated further from the regular population, is a concern at that age in particular, because that whole worrying about pigeonholing kids into that process, you know, sending them directly into the high school one. So just a couple of notes.
So really, next steps would be just looking into, you know, obviously this was just sort of a baseline of what the opportunities are and what exists out there. But, you know, looking into what would the goals be, what kind of characteristic would we, you know, want to look at, you know, how many students would it ultimately impact? Those are just some different things if we would want to dig deeper.
Kathy?
Yeah, how many students are currently in your high school, alternative school? I feel like I've asked this a couple times.
We look at
Joe.
So we've currently had 5 that have graduated already, so now there's about a dozen there. And we have some that are shared, so max of a dozen right now.
Dan? How many students would you feel are in the alternative program in the middle school right now?
In the self-contained classrooms? I'm going to look at Tom.
Right now we have, now there have been a couple who have self-selected out of the district and decided to go elsewhere through open enrollment or online or homeschool. Right now we have one.
That's
is
solely
self-contained already.
The rest of the students are in a self-contained classroom for the majority of the day, but very thoughtfully pushed into classrooms. And sometimes it's not pushed in for academics, it's pushed in for more that socialization piece. So their goals are, you know, they do their academics within their self-contained classroom, and then they're pushed into the regular ed classroom, maybe just to see the models of their peers and how they interact. So that stress and some of the different components that push them to the point of maybe dysregulation are taken off their shoulders, and that they can then learn how to, it's individual to each student. It's dependent on the goals that they have.
And how is that done? I mean, that a child in the middle school, is that the parents coming to the administrator saying, I want this for my child, or is that something the school is contacting the child about, or how's it work?
Normally, Bob, it's initiated by the school based on past history with that student. Normally, it's obviously a special education student who will reconvene. I'll work with Ann, we'll work with our special education team, bring that parent in, and kind of review all of the information, and then collectively make a decision that's best for the student, saying, this is what we suggest. But like Dan had said, they don't have to take us up on it.
Sure.
In this case, this parent was, and the other parents we worked with, were very cooperative. They just wanted to help their son or daughter however they could. So, yeah, they decided, normally it's us, long story short, it's us starting the process, but kind of carrying the parent along and helping them understand the why of why we think this is a good choice.
Have you had it where it's the other way around though, where a parent says, hey, we have to do something different and
Absolutely.
this is, okay.
Everything is driven through, like, with our self-contained, it's all students who have IEPs. And their IEPs have specific goals that push, where they are during the day. And again, it just depends on what that IEP is looking at. So if a student, we do a lot of documentation. So if a student has, like different times of the day that they're dysregulated, or that there's certain triggers throughout the day, different times, or different classes, or different situations, you look at all of that and you take that into consideration when you're looking at how their day is built. So that maybe for them going out at recess with the rest of their peers isn't the best choice because they can't necessarily control themselves. Then you look at having a different recess time in a smaller group with, maybe other peers that are in their same self-contained classroom.
And I would just add to that too, it's, in some of those, in the self-contained program, yes, it's all students with IEPs, but that process of having other places for kids when they need some downtime happens in all of our buildings, and at the middle school it does as well, and at all of their buildings it does happen. And there are plans that are developed, and kids have safe places to go, and so those things all do happen.
What's the difference between a self-contained room and an additional resource room?
So an additional resource room, I don't know if Riverview probably doesn't have them. The high school used to have them. I don't know if they still do. So it's more of a built-in study hall time that students can go there during a study hall, or maybe during a class that it's work time. They can go to this room that they'll have either special education teachers or specialized aides who can then support them in their academics. Or if they might be getting frustrated, that they can go to that room, there'll be an adult there, and that they can then take that time to take a breath and de-escalate, or get some help with some more academics that they need extra supports in. Whereas a self-contained classroom is where they are scheduled to that classroom throughout the day at very specific times, and then typically pushed into classrooms with a plan in place.
What do you think the percentage is of school districts that have a middle school type of multi-grade off-site alternative program?
I wasn't able to find any in our area.
'Cause I know.
So Sheboygan, for example, it's called Teenship and Kinship, but they are for their highest behavioral needs students, and they're in very specific buildings. So I think, I want to say maybe Jefferson or Lincoln, one of the two has Kinship. So that's where the very highest needs students are there, but they still do similar to what we do with our self-contained classrooms. When they feel that a student is appropriate to be pushed into a classroom, because ultimately our goal is to have them as integrated into society and contributing citizens. So to keep them self-contained all the time isn't going to help them to learn how to have those skills. So even those students within those schools get pushed out. I know like Nina and Appleton, again, they typically have like one school that houses those very highest needs.
It's extremely rare.
But it's
having
rare.
an offsite, a middle level, off-site, behavior-based alternative program. It's hard to find them. All that work tends to be done in the school itself. Again, there are more that are theme-based, like the old school on the lake, as an example.
In the basement.
In the basement. The basement did flood one year.
We're not
Then
willing
it's
to risk
on a
that.
lake.
No. It's not
Then it became school in the lake.
Principals, were there any other school ideas that you've encountered over your, 10
Well,
years?
just as we were talking, I would agree with Dina and Dan. You generally tend to see the off-site tends to be urban areas, larger districts. I'm thinking MPS, I'm thinking, Green Bay doesn't even have one, and they are the second or third largest school district in the state. Waukesha, I believe, does not, they're the fifth largest. So you generally don't see these. Like Dan had mentioned, we handle each student individually, because the needs are so diverse. We don't have, it would be impossible to have one set plan for all kids. There's a set of protocols that we follow, like Dan and I had mentioned, and Dina, but we don't have, as far as a plan goes, like I said, okay, you're here, so we're gonna put you in this room for the entire day, or put you off-site. It's generally, for these types of students, it's a team effort with Ann, with myself, with the special or student services team, as well as our special education team, which I'm biased. I know everybody else has a good special ed team. My special ed team are the Navy SEALs of education, anywhere, anytime. They're willing to serve students. Working in a number of different protocols, both state and our protocols, to see what's going to work best for that student. The majority of these kinds of students, like Dina had said, we don't want them in a cage, in a classroom, so to speak, the entire day. We want them to have a place that is their safe zone, their landing zone, whatever you want to call it, and get them out into the classroom for the social emotional learning. And when they become unregulated, they come back, we practice, we go through lessons that are hopefully going to prepare them for when they get to Joe's level, so that they know how to self-regulate when they feel themselves losing it. And that plan, again, without going into it, that plan happens individually for each student, if that makes sense.
I would think that you probably run into more problems segregating those kids and getting them away from the social aspect, because especially in the middle school years, that's when they're developing the most socially and learning who they are. And if you take them away from that and pull them out of that, you could really damage someone. So I'd have to be very careful if you'd ever try anything like that.
Other questions? Thoughts?
I guess, what do you need from us, or if there is anything on the wish list in this area, what would it be?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Nobody's ever asked me that before.
That's a great question.
So a few things that Anne and a team of teachers last year wrote a grant for mental health and received it, and it's a three-year ongoing grant, and it's a considerably large grant. So there's a large team of counselors and teachers that have been working on different things that we can do to help within our schools. And one of the things that has come out of this grant is the middle school and the high school are having some training done, and they're going to be integrating a program called, it's WebLink.
Web at the
Middle school and Link Crew at the high school. And it's all about developing communities and so 8th grade students will be trained, 7th and 8th grade students will be trained.
Mostly 8th grade, a couple 7th grade just for succession.
next year, and it's about problem solving and working within a community and supporting each other. So those are some different things that, we have working towards and looking at what are strategies and goals that we have moving forward to help all of our students be successful. And so, yeah, I think there are some really good things going on, and both Tom and Andy Novak from the high school are familiar with that program. They've used it before, and a few of our newer teachers have used it in their districts as well and have found really great success with it.
I'd say also you've been supporting us as we've been moving through this, as, we're making decisions for next year's budget and personnel levels that we're going to have. And you've already approved some additional counselors and special ed teachers this year. That is very much appreciated, because all hands on deck is really important. And then as we move forward, looking into next year, we have the intention to hire a social worker. And because that skill set is really important in connecting students with outside organizations and families and doing all those types of things. And so your support as we move forward with that is greatly appreciated. However, that is going to be covered, a lot of it's going to be covered by the grants that Ann wrote last year, and Dina as well, part of that grant. And then there's also a reimbursement, kind of like the ESSER funds, for social workers currently in the state, that if you hire one, pay them all year, you can claim that for about 50% of that salary at the end of a school year. So we're going down that path as well. And so, your support in the human side of things, and that's really what we need is people, and people that have skills. That's really the most important thing.
So what do you find to be the main reason for the turnover in special ed?
It's a hard job. I think there's turnover like our turnover tends to be life turnover, and with people moving to different parts and getting married, moving off. But then there's also people that maybe started with us in special ed, and then there's a job open. They're great people. We don't hold them back from moving into regular ed either. Mm-hmm. But special ed is a tough job. Alternative ed is a tough job. It can be what's it called? Empathy fatigue.
Yeah.
Sometimes people it does drain you working with those people quite a bit, but some of them are, some of our staff thrive in that, but finding those people that thrive in that type of environment, they're a little bit more rare.
So Tom, did you get cut off, or did you have another idea or something else?
No, everything that Dan and Dina had said, we, at Riverview, we'd like an additional room or two built on, but that's not gonna happen, so, you do with what you have, and we're taking a look at how we utilize our space, just internally, to maximize for, we have one of our grades has a larger SchBd population. We have a grade coming in a couple of years from now that is larger. So we have a little bit of time in between now and when they get up to the middle school. But no, what Dan had said is true. Special ed, you arguably deal with the toughest kids in your school. And that can wear on your staff, regardless of how good they are, how many years they've done it. And that's where you see some of that turnover. And like Dan, if my teachers have served students well, and they need to go someplace else, I'll move mountains to help them. I'm not gonna try and keep them as much as I would love to keep them here. And that has happened a little bit. But some of it's just downright fatigue, just being very tired.
When you say the toughest kids, it's not necessarily always behavioral too.
Oh, no, not at
it's
all.
the learning needs and, helping them with those strides to help, because, they, like you said, the empathy part of it, they care so much about their kids, and they, when you're identified with a special need, your learning isn't traditional. So you sometimes have to try multiple pathways and have a lot of failures of finding what strategy is the most effective way for that student. So, and then you add on the paperwork that they're required through their IEPs, which is a legal process. That's quite a considerable process to write up IEPs and the meetings that come along with it. So it is a very time vested position.
What is our student-to-teacher ratio at the middle school?
Special ed teacher or regular
Just
ed?
general. Is there like
That I don't know off the top of my head.
is there an average in the state of Wisconsin that kind of you look to, or is it just kind of based upon historical?
There are
person
averages,
Yeah.
but beware of the average when you see those averages in newspaper reports, because they count everybody. They'll count counselors and the whole works into an average. So sometimes you'll see school districts have 13-1 or something like that. That's not true. A typical class at the middle school tends to have 22 to 28 kids in it, I would guess, if you just had a range.
Our fifth grade right now has about 18 or 19-ish per class. Gets a little bigger as our teams, because we have seven-person teams in fifth and sixth, and then it goes to 6 in seventh and eighth. So they move up a little bit, about 23-ish, somewhere around there. But what Dan said is right. It's a big PR thing for a lot of districts, where you add counselors, you add everybody that you can to lower that 13-1 ratio, and very few districts in the state are doing 13 students to 1 teacher, if any.
Any other questions at this time? Dan, did you get some
Yeah, is
help
this
on this?
what you were looking for, or?
Yeah, I mean,
Other thoughts?
just as one school board member, I'm just looking at all angles to help support our middle school students reach
Yep.
the goals that we put in front,
Yeah.
our educational goals. Like, that's why I'm here.
Yep.
Right, that's why we're all here, so.
Yeah. Yeah, Tom, so the offer's open. If you think of something else, let us know.
You're running past
Thank
Amy
you.
first.
Yeah, well, you talk to us first, then talk to Amy.
You don't talk to me first, you talk to you guys.
All right. With that, we'll move on. Yes?
Yep.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. That's really informative. Finance, buildings, and grounds. Amy, do you want to take this one? Board will consider approval of district health dental insurance for the 2022-2023 school year. What do you have to tell us? Anything?
Well, yes, so every year, our insurance plans are up for renewal. So our current, I'm gonna start with health insurance. Our current health insurance carrier is WCA, which is Wisconsin Counties Association, which is under the umbrella of Group Health Trust. When we got our first renewal offer, it came in at about at least 7% increase in our rates. And so we went back and we said, that's too high. What else can you offer? So they came in with about 5.5%.
Let me just jump in here too for the beginning of this, because I think this is a good example of the reason that we are able to function as well as we do with a low revenue limit is because of our willingness to work on getting a better deal and finding less expensive options and being creative in what we do and where we find our materials and all of that, and working on sustainability and all of that. This is a good example of Amy playing hardball with insurance companies to bring down rates. I wish I could do this at my own house. It would be way better. But anyway, she did a really fantastic job. She'll tell the story now.
That is a true story. So I was working with our representative from Horton Group and I said, you know, this is not, it's just not acceptable. So I talked with Dan and we said we wanted to go to bid. Just to throw it out there, you know, what's the worst that's gonna happen? Everyone comes in higher and we're gonna have to make some plan design changes. So he did, and found WEA Trust, who our employees our longstanding employees will be familiar with because we've had them in the past. When I started here like 16 years ago, we had WEA Trust. Came back with a 0% increase on our health insurance plan,
Wow.
on our rates.
Wow.
So, they, with a not to exceed the following year of 9.5%. It's kind of like it's just a nice umbrella to have. Usually, well, every time we've had a not to exceed, we've never ever hit that percentage, but it's a good thing to have because they couldn't come back and say, okay, now you're gonna increase, 40%. So Dan Mongovin took that back to WCA. They didn't want to lose us. They came back and said, well, the best that we can do is 2%. So we sat on it for like 24 hours and just kind of made them stew a little bit and decided to go with WEA Trust, which is, so they have a 0% increase. They've matched our plan, our benefit summary, about 98%. There's only a couple changes to the prescription medication tiers, like a medication might fall on a different tier, which honestly can happen throughout the year with any insurance company. People won't be really shocked by that. And then they have a different breakout of maximum out-of-pocket maximums. They're all governed by federal law, so there's only certain amounts that you can have them go to, but our current carrier has deductible and copay, and then deductible, copay, and prescription. But WEA Trust has deductible and copay, and then deductible and prescription, or something like that. It's just broken out differently. But all of the deductibles and copays that have been met or will be met by June 30th of this year will carry over to the new plan. So they're familiar with school district plans and design because, they work with them all the time. So we would like to recommend that you approve us to move our health insurance carrier from WCA to WEA Trust. Does anyone have any questions?
We need a motion.
I make a motion that we move the health insurance carriers from WCA to WEA Trust. Thanks for your work on that.
Second.
First and second, any other discussion? Any other questions? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, thanks for your work on that, Amy. And now,
I'm not done.
you're not done.
No.
Tell us about copy machine.
No, we gotta talk about dental insurance
Oh,
first.
dental.
Yes.
Oh,
In the background.
So while we were doing all of this with health insurance, we started kind of digging into dental insurance and some questions that employees had, and even that Dan and I had together. And so, sent off some emails and whatnot. And after digging into it, found out that our current dental provider, which is Delta Dental, only covers 80% of charges for out-of-network dental providers, which matched the questions we were getting from staff about being balance billed. So, people would get a bill for whatever, it could be a couple $100s, and they just didn't understand why. So we asked for a report of in-network dentists around our area, and found that only about 50% of the dentists in this area agree to Delta Dental's terms and contract with them. So if they don't agree to the terms and they're considered out of network, and our employees and families go there and then they're charged this balance billing. And some of the providers it was interesting that they do not have a contract with Delta Dental. No one could really tell us why, providers move contracts with insurance companies all the time, but for the heck of it, we asked Horton Group to go to bid for dental insurance too. And even though Delta was offering a 0% increase on our rates and whatnot, well, they went out and they found MetLife, and MetLife came back with a 2% reduction in our rates, covering our out-of-network providers 95 to 99%. So, and the benefit summary and the coverages of everything, like I went down into the nitty-gritty of like fluoride for kids, like how often can they get that? And everything was the same. So we are recommending your approval for us to change dental carriers from Delta Dental to MetLife.
Can I be on your policy?
That sounds like a motion.
Yeah, because I have Delta Dental. I make a motion that we change from Delta Dental to MetLife for our dental insurance.
Second.
First and second, any discussion? All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, Amy, now, tell us about copy machine bids.
Well, I was on a roll with insurance, so I
see that.
started going with copiers at the same time. So we have we have copiers at different schools that are on different rotations for renewal. Well, right now, our copy machines at Fairview, Parkview, Community Ed, and Riverview are up for renewal. They are with James Imaging. And the other copiers that we have in the district are with Gordon Flesch. And we replaced those last year, and we got Canons, and everyone likes them, and we like working with Gordon Flesch a lot and stuff like that. So I was digging through all the bills, and I was emailing James Imaging and found that the way that the contract was set up was strange. Like, we have a contract for an annual amount of copies. It was like 1.9 million. But every quarter, our bill had an additional charge for copies that were over a certain amount. Even though at the end of the year, we only had 1.8 million copies. So they actually had built in like a maximum amount per quarter and then a maximum amount over the course of the year. So I started asking questions about that, and the representative that we have at James Imaging he's new, so he was digging into it too, and he's like, yeah, that's what happened. So I collected quotes from Gordon Flesch and James Imaging, and they were literally within a couple $100. I think Gordon Flesch is like $208 more than James Imaging. But I would still recommend the approval to go with Gordon Flesch because we have a good working relationship with them, and considering everything that I found out with James Imaging, I think it would just be best to move our business over to Gordon Flesch.
And that's really comes down to trust, is that what it is?
That and their products. I mean, the Canon copiers that we have are very good. We don't have as many service calls, and Gordon Flesch met with each of our secretaries and groups and found out what they needed and what works and what doesn't. Last year, they actually suggested, reducing sizes of copiers to meet the needs. So I know that they are not just looking, to keep increasing our costs. Like, they want to meet the needs of our district, and they're really great to work with.
So we need a motion.
Make a motion to approve the copy machine bid with Gordon Flesch.
Second.
First and second. Any other discussion? Questions for Amy? Hearing none. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Thank you, Amy. Now at this time, we need to consider the gifts and corresponding budget adjustments.
Yes, every board meeting, we have this section where we talk about the gifts, and we always say thank you to the community because you help out with the students and with scholarships and with so much, and we're very, very grateful for all that you do for our district. So our first donation is a donation of $154 from the Fairview Elementary School PTO for transportation to Camp Waikota. And then we have a donation of $517.71 from the Plymouth Education Foundation to purchase the Resilient Warrior Program. We have a donation of $376.74 from the Parkview Elementary School PTK for transportation to Maywood and Above and Beyond Museum. We have a donation of $379.89 from the Plymouth High School We Act for transportation to the Widener Center. A donation of $1,014.18 from the Riverview Student Council for transportation to Discovery World. And a donation from Dave Brennenstuhl of 3 euphoniums and a tuba. And those are our donations, and all the adjustments to the accounts will be made after approval.
Need a motion?
Make a motion to accept the gifts and corresponding budget adjustments.
Thank you, Jen. Second?
I'll second.
First and a second. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? A big thank you for everyone for that donated to our district and supported us. Moving on, item 9, period of public participation. Recognize those who wish to address the board. Do we have people that have signed up?
Yes, Jerry Crawl.
All right. Jerry? You can come up here. I think Kurt, will he be heard? Does he need a mic in front of him? No, it'll pick him. It'll pick you up, Jerry.
I have to ask, I don't know if you can answer or not, just by raise of hands, how many of you have done any research into transgenderism recently? Just one of you?
No.
2 of you?
No.
3. Oh. I just did an extensive thing on it myself. Came to realize that transgenderism has been around for the longest time, since this earth has been basically created, or culture has been created. It's something that is probably with us here to stay. The one thing that I would emphasize to parents, like my mom brought my sister and I up to look at a person's character as opposed to their color or their religion or their beliefs or whatever the case may be. Look at a person based on what they can do so you can work with anybody. So that being said, I think if we, even in the schools, start teaching and our children a little bit more about getting along with people and looking at people as a person rather than an opponent based upon their religion, color, whatever the case may be, I think things will be better. But that being said, because of this transgenderism that's gone on, it definitely has become very politicized. The thing that I could not find in the research that I did, and they went into binary and the whole bit. The thing that surprised me is because I've had 3 psychology classes at the UW. I talked to my professor 3 weeks ago about the frontal lobe of the brain is a thing that doesn't really mature until you're about 25 years old. And recently, even I saw on Nova, they discovered that it really hasn't matured until maybe 32. So that being said, when I think about transgenderism among our children under the age of 25, I don't get it. I wonder, I question myself, I say, okay, what does this child get up in the morning, say to his mom and dad, oh, I'm Johnny, I was Johnny yesterday, today I'm Susie. I'm thinking, what does that parent say to them? How do they handle that? And if I understood right what the lawyer said when he was here, when they come into the classroom, if they come up to the teacher and say, I'm a different person today, what does that teacher automatically do? Do you just, oh, yeah, that's fine, Johnny, just sit down and we'll take care of it. That's not the way we function. We would question that thing. So I'm wondering just how is that really supposed to be handled? I think there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. I think we have to be careful about how we handle things, who we express it to. And the thing that I don't like about is all of a sudden we have to call them by some other pronoun or something instead of Miss, Mr., Sir, this type of thing. I have a hard time with that. I really do. I'd rather call them by their name, whatever it may be. But I grew up working with, I've had classmates that were turned out to be gay and lesbian. Big deal. They're just another person. So it's something that we've got to look at. I don't know how we're going to handle it. It's definitely a big question. And I think it's going to go on for some time because in Wisconsin, how they got this number, I don't know, but supposedly we have 60,000 transgender people in Wisconsin, which that number blew me away. I don't know how they got it or whatever, but that was the number they came up with. So we've got to do something since it's been here since time immemorial. Well, as a matter of fact, the religions. The only two religions that I can think of that might have a real problem, Catholicism and Protestantism. Judaism has 5 genders in it, which I didn't realize. And then there's others like Shintoism and Taoism and all these others. They've got genders. The longest one was 72, I believe it was. So if you look at the rest of the world and how they've been functioning, it's something that's there. We've got to deal with it. At my age, I have a hard time dealing with a lot of the modern things, but it's a reality. So we've got to deal with it.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Now, moving on, item 10, consider approval of the school district's membership renewal to WIAA for the 2022-2023 school year.
Yeah, this is something that we have to do on an annual basis. There is no fee to being in the WIAA, but if you want to participate in varsity sports and have a chance to go to state and all the rest of it, you have to be in the WIAA. It's not a monopoly. So it just takes you to approve it, and then we continue to function as we normally do with our athletics.
Make a motion, we renew our WIAA status.
Second.
First and second, all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, we're in for another year. Board liaison reports, community ed, Sally.
Yes, community ed. Has anybody ever wanted their own personal trainer? Well, if you're a member of the fitness center, you can get it.
Well,
We also have bad news. The swimming pool at the high school will be closed for the summer. But other than that, we do have other stuff going on, self-defense and safety classes, have kickboxing available, rec basketball available 2 mornings a week, pickleball, and there's a class called Seasonal Plants for Food and Medicine that is coming up very soon. And that's all.
thank you, Sally. And the swimming pool is the ventilation, right?
Yep, the ventilation in the swimming pool is being replaced. It's the original HVAC system, ventilation, and so that is why. They're going to take the opportunity to do some repair on some of the tiling and tuck pointing and waterproofing of some parts of it as well, so.
Great, thanks. Foundation, that's my report. Scholarship night was last week, Wednesday. The foundation manage 35 different scholarships totaling $55,000 of the foundation money. In addition to that, what was it, what was the total?
1.5.
1.5 million total scholarships given out to students. But again, the foundation handles 55,000 of that. Thank you to everyone who's contributed to the foundation. We continue to look for funds and opportunities to raise money. Recently, we were out at the fairgrounds working a race night, and we earned a little bit of money doing that. So thank you to everyone, staff and members of the foundation that participated. And finally, our grants. As it turns out, our large grant program, we had a windfall because of the DPI reimbursement on a grant that we had already agreed to fund. So the foundation does have additional monies for the large grants, so please, administrators, encourage your teachers. There's money on the table there. We're looking for more grants. So that's foundation report. Finally, Family Resource Center. Dan.
Yeah, Family Resource Center, a lot of times we talk about the cool events that are kind of there, low-cost things that help build our stronger community, help build up stronger children, stronger families, and coming up on Saturday is a way that our community can kind of give back to the Family Resource Center. They're holding their 25th anniversary fundraiser. It's at Nourish Farms this year. It's this Saturday. It starts at 4 and goes till 7 p.m. They have lots of fun things going on there, live music, food, raffles, and so it'll be a lot of fun to stop on out, and love to see you. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. All right, personnel. This is.
The first one comes to Amy.
Oh, first one is Amy.
A.
A, consider approval of changes 2021-2022 support staff handbook for the 2022-2023 school year.
Yep, so the committee of the whole, just to recap, I had given you two handouts. One was for the, to change the amount of the above and beyond stipend from $500 to $750. And then you also got a copy of the new salary ranges for support staff. Does anyone have any questions about those two things? Do you need me to go over anything?
I think it was pretty clear at the committee of the whole, so.
Okay, then in addition, I gave each of you another sheet, it's got all these colors on it. This was not at the committee of the whole, but it would go along with the support staff handbook changes. So this is all summer school. Again, did comparisons for summer school. The yellow blocks are the areas that we are suggesting to change in addition to all the other ranges. The first one is gonna be for our summer school teachers. We would like to increase the hourly rate 75 cents and go to $385 per week. And then down below, our summer cleaners, summer custodians, we would like to increase that from $10 to $12. Typically, those are, students, college students, high school students. But we definitely need to continue to increase that. It's getting more difficult to find kids that want to work and do that for that amount of money. Summer school student aides, well, they're aides that are students. There are students, and we hire them as summer school aides. We would like to increase that from $9 to $10 per hour. And then our summer grounds crew, we would like to increase from, we had a range of $10.50 to $12. We would just like to change that to $13 per hour flat for all. And our summer technology, again, those are usually students or, college kids, or sometimes they come back for a couple of years. We had a range of $12.50 to $14. We'd like to change it to $13 to $14, have that range. It just gives them a little bit of a bump if they come back for a year or two. So those are additional proposed changes that we would like for you to consider for approval. And all of that would be reflected in the support staff handbook.
Okay. All right, we need a motion.
I make a motion that we can change the, oh, we have that one?
Well, we're
Support handbook?
approving
No,
support staff handbook
Yeah,
and
okay.
commensurate
Support, yeah, the
changes
21-22 support staff handbook for the
and changes to the,
22-23 school year.
all right? Motion.
Second.
There's motion, second. Any more discussion? Questions? No? All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? All right. Now, B,
Mhm.
it's up to you.
Yep, continue on in this area. B through E, we can do as one group, we can approve the newly hired teachers, and then the F and G are, we can do those together, those are retirements.
Okay.
So B is, we'll start there, consider approval of a 100% contract for Abby Debink to be a school counselor at Fairview Elementary School, beginning with the 2022-23 school year. Abby received her bachelor's from Ripon College and her master's degree from Lakeland College. This will be Abby's 6th year of school as a counselor. Next, we'd consider approval of a 100% contract for Rachel Blessing to teach art at Riverview Middle School, beginning with the 2022-23 school year. Rachel received her bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. This will be her 5th year of teaching. Consider approval of 100% contract for Maggie Brill to teach 7th grade at Riverview Middle School, beginning with the 2022-23 school year. Maggie received her bachelor's degree from the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. This will be Maggie's 1st year of teaching. And then consider a 100% contract for Wendy Naskovitz to teach business education at Plymouth High School, beginning the 2022-23 school year. Wendy received her bachelor's degree from Lakeland College and her master's degree from Lesley University. This will be her 5th year of teaching. Those are all the new contracts for approval.
Need a motion?
Make a motion to approve the teacher contracts?
Second.
First and second. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? All right.
And then the 2 retirements, board, please consider the approval of the retirement request from Lori Brown, instructional leader, longtime teacher, special education teacher, effective at the end of 21-22 school year. Lori has been with the district for 32 years. Also, consider the approval of the retirement request from Shelley Benedict, 7th grade teacher at Riverview Middle School, effective at the end of the 21-22 school year. Shelley has been with the district for 7 years.
All right. You need a motion to accept these retirements?
Make a motion to accept the retirements?
I'll second.
First and second. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? And thank you to those teachers for their service. They get recognized Wednesday night.
Next Wednesday, yeah.
Next Wednesday. All right, travel.
Just the support staff.
What? Oh, support staff. There's nothing attached.
I don't think we have a support staff.
Do we have?
I'm sorry, I put that on there and.
We didn't have any actually.
Yeah. So no update, which we didn't have to vote on anyway because it's support staff, right? So
Right.
we're good. All right, travel.
We have 3 travel requests, consider, and so we can, if it's okay with you, we could approve them all together.
All together, as long as, yeah.
All right. Consider the out-of-state travel request from girls varsity softball coach Gail Grahn to take high school students to Florida, March 22nd through the 28th of next year, 23. This request is in line with board policies. Expenses will be the responsibility of the students and/or their parents through fundraising. The next one is we would consider an out-of-state travel request from FBLA, teacher Todd Williams, to take high school students to Chicago, June 29th through July 2nd for the FBLA, the 2022 FBLA National Leadership Conference. This request, again, is in line with board policies. Expenses will be the responsibility of students and/or their parents through fundraising. And finally, consider out-of-state travel request from Kelly Oshalik, 7th grade teacher at Riverview Middle School, to take students to Washington, D.C. on June 13th through 17th, 2022. This request, again, is in line with board policy. This travel request had already been approved in 2020, but obviously things were postponed for a couple of years, and we're just bringing it back to the board again for this upcoming school year travel. Those are the 3 requests.
Make a motion to approve the travel request.
Second.
All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? All right, no items for the consent agenda, separate discussion. Moving on is President's report. We're going long here, so I'll make it short. June 5th, graduation coming up. In some ways, it's the end of the school year, but it's not the end of our year. Our work goes on year-round, just like everyone else, the administrators in this district. But it is a time when we look at what we're here for and our focus. And that's the kids, and that's, as Sally has pointed out and had us put on our agenda, we talk about our mission for each child to become his or her personal best. We're preparing kids for the 21st century, and we'll be able to see the fruits of our labor on June 5th. So a big thank you to everyone in this room. A big thank you to our community, because through this past couple of years, we've had some contentious issues. We've had some new learnings. Thank you, Jerry, for your presentation today. We're learning about things that maybe we didn't imagine we'd have to learn about. And through it all, we have done it for the most part, with a lot of respect and with just good transparency all the way through. And that's commendable, and that's maybe, if nothing else, that's one of those gifts that we're giving these graduating students, that there's a different way that we can dialogue, and there's a different way that we can agree to disagree. And if we can model that well here, and model that well in the classroom, then we are preparing kids for the 21st century. So thank you to everyone in this room, and we're off to another year, and that's pretty exciting. Go ahead.
Thanks, Bob. And the fruits of our labors, exactly, because there are, just like I had last month, there are tons of accomplishments from our students and staff, and I'll highlight some of them again today. So one of the things that used to be said quite a bit in these meetings was that PD is built into our DNA. We do a lot of professional development. We hire people and we try to grow them, and so that we can hopefully they feel good about their work and what they're doing, and that they can grow and learn here, and it's a good place to be. So in that vein, our 5th cohort of UWGB in-house master's degree students will be presenting this coming Wednesday. Their presentations for their action research. You've seen some of them have come to you over the years, and we've made some changes in the district due to what they've accomplished and what they've learned, and so that continues. And even through all of COVID, and we had all kinds of different formats that were done, and Dina has taken over that entire program along with our friends at UWGB, and so that relationship continues, and our teachers still continue to benefit. And because our teachers benefit and grow, our kids get the benefit of that. Some sports accomplishments. Tennis just won conference, beat Kohler 5-2, I think a couple hours ago. So there's the first one. And I was just going to mention tonight that we're getting into the sporting playoff season, the playoff runs. And so we've got baseball, track, soccer, everybody's still going. So we'll find out how they do as they're moving forward. But participation, as the foreign exchange student said, that is different than anywhere else in the world. And so that activity, the amount of activity that they get to do here and the connections that it builds is really eye-opening for them. And it's one of the things they always remember. You mentioned it, Bob, we had $1.5 million worth of scholarships handed out at our awards ceremony, and that doesn't count all of those grants and extra president's funds and all of that come into kids who go to universities. Those are just the straight-up scholarships, so that's really, really impressive. Some other fun facts that are going around. Over COVID, some of our facilities didn't get used as much. Our outdoor spaces were used more, but some of them, we didn't have people working on them. Good example of that is the gardens over at Fairview. They actually had a tree, grew right up through the middle of it, and so it was time, and they used one of the health and wellness during our PD days. We always have some portion of the morning where we focus on health and wellness. It's led by Ann Gamoki and her team. And there's always something cool to do. And at Fairview, the work was, let's get this garden back in shape. So the teachers all got the garden back in shape. They got it up and running. Things are growing. It looks nice. And so just a snapshot on the 16th, there are Fairview fourth grade book clubs reading right in the grass, right around the garden, all piled in there. There are 4K students with some special needs kind of in there feeling the sand, and there are calming boxes out there. And then even some of the little kids wandered over to the big kids and listened to them read books in the outdoor space at the garden. So the health and wellness and outdoor spaces effort definitely continues. And the same thing is happening with community engagement over at Parkview. For example, you heard about the Red Nose Day coming up, and that will be a chance for kids to think about others and to kind of understand empathy a little bit. And they're doing the Red Nose thing to talk about childhood poverty and what you can do to help others. So that's great about community engagement. And kids have been actively preparing the gardens there as well. And they have also been incubating duck and chicken eggs. And the question that always comes up at the end of this is, what do you do with them when they hatch? Who's got dibs is the question. Stay tuned. It's always a question. Riverview has, again, outdoor activities. They're using outdoor spaces again. The sun finally came out. And so, their Riverview Middle School students are in a bike contest called Hit the Road. And students can write essays and enter them and win a bike, actually, about cool summer activities. And then congratulations about community outreach to the following students who were named Optimist Club Students of the Year in their respective grades in Riverview. Lexi Schoeneman in sixth grade, seventh grade, Brianna Ladwig, and eighth grade, Callie Knowles. So congratulations to them. And again, our focus on community outreach continues at all levels. Again, community connectedness at the high school in our youth services class. Two students, Courtney Harder and Annika Nelson, did youth service projects. The one that Courtney did was working with a whole group of students and doing positive messages in chalk so that other kids were walking outside and they could see, you're important, you're wonderful, all those things. That was a great project. And then also the other one was Annika organized a concert at Generations, and at that concert with the Riverview students, she kind of taught them and helped them get going. We had 50 people at Generations and 300 views online, so that was cool. And then some extracurriculars that I wanted to focus on was that our yearbook has been awarded the Jostens National Yearbook Excellence Distinction. And that's based on that the students they made sure that they're included in the yearbook. There's a sense of belonging to the school and community, and the distinction also requires the staff to work diligently and meet critical deadlines and goals throughout creating the yearbook and the entire process. And by doing that, they quote in here that this is the second year which the Plymouth was exemplary in that regard. And so Sarah Mackey is the advisor with her team of students. That's wonderful. Then we also had a few things in our World Language Department and WEACT. You've heard a lot of kids are involved in WEACT, and it's about diversity and inclusion and belonging, and many of our local companies have a whole department about that. WEACT is about that in our schools. And this month, WEACT visited kindergarten, fourth grade classes at Fairview to talk about UN, United Nations Sustainable Development, goals of clean water, zero hunger, and peace talks and refugees. So those are, again, thinking about the world and big issues. They also hosted a body talk, a body image talk at Generations with guest speakers Lauren Cudworth and Mental Health of America counselors. And so that was an important activity. And this year we have, again, we were the founders in Plymouth High School of Wisconsin Global Scholars as something that you can earn as a graduate of any high school. Plymouth developed that and was the first place that happened. Laura Cables presented about it. We had 2 students this year, Lucia Blad and Olivia Robb were the scholars this year. And so it's been a wonderful month, and it will continue with graduation, and the fruits of all of your labors and all of our staff and community members and parents is bearing fruit. So wonderful.
Great. All right. Item 18, we are going to vote to adjourn into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85, Section 1, subsection C, to consider the employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation of a public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Basically, we're going to review the district administrator goals and approve closed minutes from the December 21st, 2021 board meeting. We need a roll call.
Need a motion
I
to
need
go
a
into closed.
motion.
Make a motion to go into closed session.
And a second.
Second.
Now I need a roll call.
Dan?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Bob?
Yes,
Sally, yes. Janelle? Kathy?
Yes.
thank you. This meeting's closed. Thank you all very much for coming.